Today we're talking advertisements and why every manager and the staff of organizations should know how to write good ads themselves. You can, of course, resort to hiring ad agencies, but that can be very expensive, and quite often they just don't know your products and services as well as you do. So there's no reason why you certainly can't take the first, second, and third cuts at this so that you've got it almost to perfection before you hand it off to them for just some fine tuning. So what examples can I give for the need for ads within an organization that other, of course, print advertisements in newspapers we all know about. But what about your website? A website's basically just a long, complex advertisement, and it should be approached as such using the right persuasive techniques and the right copy words and that sort of thing. There's also, of course, electronic media, radio and television that you can take a pretty good crack at before you hand it off to the people, the sales reps who work there. Email is, of course, another form of advertisements these days when you use email lists. So you need to know how to write punchy, effective emails that you can send out. There's, of course, news features and blogs. These are forms of advertisements as well. There's brochures, flyers, things that we've done before, and even letters are forms of advertisements. So what we also need to understand about writing ad copy is that we have to break through the clutter. There's so much advertising hitting us these days. Some studies suggest that people are hit by 1,000 or more ads a day. And we employ something called selective retention, selective distortion, and selective awareness to literally maintain our sanity. If we really tried to absorb everything coming into us, we'd actually go insane. So people tend to selectively retain only what they feel is important to them. So you really need to be aware of this selective retention and how to appeal to it so your ads aren't wasted. I'd also like to suggest that when you look at spending a significant amount of money on advertising, that you employ ad testing. And there's several things you can test ads for. One of them is persuasiveness. How persuasive is the copy in terms of moving people to your position? And you can use a lot of the persuasion techniques that we covered in previous chapters. You can use ethos, again, which is the integrity of you or the company. You can use pathos, which is the drama and the emotion. And then you can use logos, which is the logic that a lot of people are influenced by. You can also use, of course, association, tying products and services to well-known people that have good ethos, so that people respect the testimonials that they might provide. And there's anticipation, of course, making people salivate, figuratively, not literally, for a product or service that you have. Of course, it could be even literally if you're talking about food and beverage. You can also test for the communications and clarity of the ad. Do people actually understand the message that you're trying to get across? We've seen examples of many ads where after you read it or see it or hear it, you go, what was that really about? Well, you don't want that to happen with your ads. There's also recall. We've also seen situations where you watch an ad, you say, gee, that was a great ad, but what was it about? Or who is the company? So you want people to be able to recall who your company is so that they can, of course, move to another thing you can test for, which is stimulation. You need to stimulate them to buy. If you're not moving them to some sort of buy action, then you've wasted your ad dollars. There's also self-involvement. When you see or hear an ad, you need to think, hey, that sounds like me. That sounds like something I need. So you need to consider the self-involvement factor and test your ads to make sure that you're hitting the self-involvement points of the people that you're trying to reach. There's also credibility and tastefulness. We've seen ads where you can buy a knife for $19.95, but if you act right now, we'll send you 10 more all for the same price. Well, the credibility of the company, of those ads, is drawn into question, so you tend not to want to do business with them. So you can test for that as well. I'd also like to talk about the length of ad copy. Some people are stuck in this myth that ads have to be short, they have to be crisp. People just don't have time or the inclination to read or absorb long ad copy. There's lots of research to suggest that this just isn't the case. People will read and absorb as much information as they need to feel good about the decision they make. And the larger the purchase, the more information they're willing to read. Consider car ads, for example, a car brochure. Some of these things are 20 pages long. So people will take the time to absorb a lot of copy if the purchase is significant enough. So don't sell yourself short on explaining the benefits and features of your products and services. People need that kind of information to make a decision, and there's lots of research to support that contention. Ad repetition is something else. There's an old formula that you need to run an ad 27 times before you can feel any confidence that it's going to have sunken in. And the formula works something like this, that people only see 1 in 3, so if you need 9 hits, you need to run 27 ads. Now, that formula is not hard and fast, but there is some truth to it. You need to repeat your ad many, many times, so it does take courage, and of course organizations like McDonald's and the car companies and Microsoft and any one of 1,000 others are evidence and testimony to this, that you have to repeat. You can't trust in a short duration run of ads to get a message across. Something else that I should talk about is the inductive and deductive aspects of ads. I was reading an ad the other day for a home security system, and they used an inductive approach where they tried to draw the readers in, and they were suggesting what happens at 3 o'clock in the morning if you hear glass break and footsteps in your house. How are you going to protect your family? So what they were doing was evoking emotions. They were painting a picture for people before they took them to the cell. Now with the deductive approach, they would have said, buy the new 6000 series of home protection with all the following features, and they would have gotten into the technology or the price or something like this. So you can see that by the inductive approach, where they sold softly and then took the people to the actual cell at the end, they were getting them emotionally involved, so they were appealing to their pathos. So you need to make that kind of decision with inductive versus deductive. What are you going to lead with? If people know a lot about your product, the deductive approach can be fine. But if you need to educate them or involve their emotion, if they don't know much about you, the inductive is often a better approach to use.